Okay, guys, so I did want to show you a few exceptions to the rules when it comes to advanced mixing and stuff. And this is kind of where intuition steps in. Um, and this is why really it is hard for people to really put their thumb on exact ways of teaching other people, because it just depends on things that you end up going for. So for example, I have this horn sound, and it did not originally have any compression on it at all. Um, so when we look at it, let's go like this. I wanted to catch these peaks that you're seeing here. And obviously to do that, you're going to want to use compression. Or you can, I should say, use compression. I could also target where they're at and duck them down that way. But I'd just as soon use compression and catch the peaks. So I just did something really easy. I just took two of the presets on the Ableton compressor. I did one to catch the peaks and one for general compression. Still seems like it's not quite where I'd like it to be, and that reverb is pretty good too. We might have to do something about that, but let's lower down the thresh. I think that'll probably give us a better effect with less transients. It seems like it. Let's hear it in the mix. So I think what we could probably do is lower down the volume just a touch, maybe 3 decibel. And let's just for the heck of it experiment with an extreme change here and take all the reverb off. Yeah, I almost wonder if we need that reverb. Actually, sounds like there's already a good amount of reverb on the sample, so maybe we can leave the reverb off. And let's hear the difference. It's definitely more, we might even be able just to get rid of the generic. Oh, let's see how that does in the mix. So you can hear now it's buried in the mix, so we might have to raise it up a little. But you can hear how it's much more tame now. It's not so unruly. You're not having crazy spikes coming up that are really clogging up the mix. So that's where you can see where it's at in the mix. Let's turn it on. And you can just hear it's a lot more tame now. So great. So that's just a little totally on the fly, just so you can see the transparency of what I do. And don't get too stuck in kind of, I really don't know how to put it other than just what I teach as far as just, following blindly. If you're using an air horn, or if you're going to use different instruments and different sounds, and sometimes they call for you to break and bend the rules. And what I'm talking about here specifically is the fact that in most of my sessions I really don't use a whole lot of compression, and I probably could get away with not using any compression on this. I probably really could. I could. Ozone 9 would probably take care of it for me. However, with other things that are happening in the mix, like the piano and the steel drums, and other things that are kind of clogging up this area, the kind of 600 to 1K area, 600 to 1K, I thought maybe it might be a good idea to try it in this, because you have to understand too, guys, that I'm always trying to improve as well. So when I say no compression, generally I don't use a whole lot of compression. I really try to take the idea of less is more in a lot of different ways in audio. The only thing I probably do religiously is always clean out the low end of a lot of instruments that are not bass or kick. So, and I usually do that to a pretty darn good extreme, and it helps the mix greatly. So, and you might say, well, what is extreme, Mikey? That's a very subjective thing. Usually 400, 500, maybe even 600, somewhere just behind 1K-ish. I leave this area big time for the bass lines if I can, or the mid bass lines. I leave this area for the kick, roughly, and a little area behind the kick for sub. So I usually do go pretty hard, and you'll notice too that this one is not all the way up here cutting. It actually is cutting not only to about 500, roughly 474, but it's also dipping at 474. So it's not just cutting like that, it's actually cutting and then dipping low as well. Let me get rid of that too there so I don't confuse anybody. So that's just a quick tip, guys, to continue to develop, continue to use your ears, and continue to use the audio tools that you have at your disposal to make a decision. Every track's going to be a little different, and with those little differences come little adjustments. So nothing extreme here. I mean, really, the only thing I did was put a basically a limiter, but it's a compressor on the air horn to catch the peaks of that sound, and I think I lowered it by like a decibel. But I had to get to this point, I had to put 2 compressors on, realize I didn't need the 1 compressor, shut the reverb off. So it's tinkering, it's messing around, but you see how it's actually taking me longer to explain it than to even actually do it. But just wanted to show you guys that so you could see how you're still going to have a little bit of intuition. You're still going to need to develop yourself, and you're still going to need to sometimes reach for tools that generally even I don't. And see, the thing is too, those peaks that come up aren't a real big deal because it's sort of like a vocal chop or something. It's only there for a split second. But it's not a constant thing like the piano. You can see there's some peaks that are poking up pretty high there. So we'll do something about those probably in a similar fashion as we'll catch those peaks, see what we can do with that. But you can see even where the bass is, it's just underneath the kick as far as volume. And generally speaking, I have from left to right sloping downwards. So all in all, it's a pretty healthy looking wave, and at this point it's just kind of nitpicking and splitting hairs. Kick might be a little loud in the mix, maybe, but that might be okay. We'll just keep working at it and keep thinking about it and keep going on. Alright guys, have a good day. I'll talk to you later.